Hey everyone, hey guys, we are back with Minecraft Beta 1.3. Oh, and World 1. I was thinking about renaming it, but I don't know. World 1 just seems kinda fun, you know, it's kind of a fun time. 9 megabytes, look at that. Wow, talk about storage. Anyways, today I was gonna divert a little bit from the usual topics about my life and things like that. A lot has happened, honestly, since the last video. There's always just more and more things that keep piling on that I want to talk about, but, you know, I don't know. I'm also gonna die, if you've noticed. I have low health. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I think I'm going to try cutting down one of these large trees because they're kind of getting a little bit overbearing. But at the same time, I kind of like them. You know, I think it's cool. I know I'm definitely going to have to dig into them later. But they do have the glitch leaves, which is cool. Anyways, I need more wood. Today I kind of want to talk about something different, like I said. And I mentioned before, I maybe want to talk about games I played. And, you know, Elden Ring came out recently, and so did Dying Light 2. I've definitely been playing a lot of Elden Ring. And I did finish Dying Light 2. And I want to talk about that today, because I was a huge fan of Dying Light 1, let me tell you. Oh gosh, it's been so long now. I remember when I was younger, and my family got a PS4. Me and my brother got a PS4 for Christmas. And I think I was like 13, something like that, 12. I honestly don't remember. 13, 14, 12, something along the lines of that. I was young. You know, it was crazy, right? I'd fallen in love with the PS3 before. My first game was actually Skylanders on the PS3, believe it or not. My brother's was the Uncharted series. I think it was 1, 2, and 3. He got as like a bundle. And I kind of shifted from Skylanders to Uncharted. I was never really a Call of Duty or Halo guy growing up. I was never really exposed to that, only through my friends. Excuse me, but yeah. My brother one day just sporadically decided to pick up Dying Light because he said it was a zombie game, which, I mean, at that point, I think the whole genre was a little bit overdone. And the cool spin about it, though, that really interested my brother into getting it was the fact that it had, like, parkour elements in it, you know? Like, you could jump around, do crazy stuff like that. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I don't think I've ever seen the game other than maybe, like, Assassin's Creed kind of doing it and Uncharted kind of doing it, you know, with the ledge climbing, stuff like that. But it was never, like, to a crazy kind of extent. So now I was excited. Honestly, for a while, the game kind of made me feel a little uneasy, like I was a little creeped out, because I watched my brother play it, and it definitely had some horror themes to it. I will tell you that much. So, you know, I was obviously, you know, a little scared to play it, but, you know, after my brother got about halfway through it, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna pick it up a little bit. You know, being the spineless, like, preteen I was, I was like, let's do it, you know, let's try it out. And I did, and it was one of the most fun I've had playing video games in a long time. I mean, the parkour was just so fluid, and just smooth and continuous, and the music of the game was fantastic. The feeling, it was like this apocalyptic, it was crazy. And I know people criticize the story a lot. I didn't think it was that bad, to be honest. I definitely feel like the ending was anticlimactic, but for the most part, I liked it. Sure, there were some parts that, you know, could definitely have been better, but for the most part, I thought it was, like, alright. Decent enough anyways. Oh, just to mention, I did switch the difficulty to hard, since that's now an option. I prefer to play the game on hard anyways. But yeah, I honestly really enjoyed it, and it was just great. The nighttime was horrifying. I never ran in the night if I could help it. it was just like, it was terrifying. I mean, it was dark. There were these predators chasing after you, volatiles. It was crazy. And of course, when the DLC came out for Dying Light 1, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's buy this, you know? I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this. It's going to be fantastic. So I got into it. My brother bought it, and I can't honestly remember if my brother beat the campaign, but I know he definitely started playing the DLC. And the thing with Dying Light is, like, it's DLC. It's not really connected to the game world. Like, when you start the DLC, you're crossing over with all of your character's items, but like you can't seamlessly travel to one another. It's hard to explain. At least in the early stages of the DLC. I don't know if they fixed that or not, but it was kind of like that early on. Anyways, the DLC was also really good. And I think it had, like I said again, great music, great theming. I thought the buggy driving was really fun. There was definitely less parkour because it was in like a countryside, but I didn't seem to mind it. I don't know. Maybe I have my nostalgia goggles on too tightly or something like that, and I'm just remembering it much better than it was. But I did hop onto it kind of after I started Dying Light 2, and it still held up. Anyways, I think I'm talking about the first game a little too much. So, you know, let's just start to get into this game. I had a lot of high hopes for Dying Light 2. Because the first game was done so well, I honestly thought that they would, you know, revise the mechanics and, you know, just make it even better. You know, I was expecting just a better product. And I tried to also kind of shield myself from any reviews, anything people were talking about. I wanted to go into it blind, and I was doing well for the most part until like one of my best friends just straight up told me like a couple days before launch that the game reviewer said the game was kind of buggy, and I was like, oh no. I mean, I don't really blame him. I didn't really say not to tell me anything, but you know, I don't know. I'm trying to kind of stop myself from going into games with like, you know, critics saying that, yeah, unless it's like overwhelmingly bad. I've learned my lesson from Cyberpunk not to pre-order games anymore. But you know, whatever. Anyways, I started playing, and first off, the first thing I noticed was the color palette change. The first game was very nitty-gritty. The colors were really washed out. It was dark. There was a lot of heavy film grain. It kind of made it feel like this really like apocalyptic kind of setting. It was like dread, you know, a feeling of no hope, and it was great. I thought the color palette, the theming was perfect with that. But right off the bat, the first thing I noticed with this game was very, very, very bright and vibrant colors, very popping colors, which it was very pretty at first, and I loved it at first. But you'll learn later why it ends up not being like good. You're introduced to Spike again from the first game. He's like old and grizzled and stuff, and he kind of leads you to a tutorial through the house and stuff like that. And it's first where I start to kind of notice the dialogue was kind of awkward. Not with Aiden, the protagonist. Aiden, his voice actor is amazing. He did a great job. I think he nothing was wrong with the protagonist voice actor. He was confident. It was perfect, and he reminded me a lot of Crane from the first game, which is great. You know, that's kind of what I wanted to see. So that kind of made the check mark. Nothing wrong with the protagonist. I do say, I will say that the model for the protagonist is a little bit wonky, especially if you're looking in the inventory screen. It shows him. He looks like really short and kind of smushed. I don't know how to explain it. Anyways, you enter the city through like these tunnels, which is cool. And you kind of get introduced to the main villain. He seems like a really cool guy at first. You know, he seems cool. With his kind of his group, the Renegades. I will say, like, the whole crazy kind of psycho voice made me cringe a little bit. I definitely think it kind of ruined the experience. It honestly seemed silly, like it was a joke. That's what I took away from it. There's a zombie somewhere. I have one heart. Please don't kill me. I should probably leave that down there so I set my spawn point. But yeah, Old Villador, the first area of the city. It was great. Honestly, the first like 2 hours of playing the game, I was kind of having a lot of fun. I was blown away. Excuse me. The parkour was just as fluid as ever. It definitely felt a lot more floaty, but it took a little bit of getting used to. But I can't really blame them for that because they were trying to make it more realistic. You know, I know they hired like parkour experts, I think to do motion capture, choreograph some of the moves, something like that. And they definitely they told them that, you know, in reality, parkour feels a lot more floaty, and I think they wanted to you know, kind of make it feel that way. For the general audience who plays the game, and I think they did a good job with that. A lot of people didn't like it, which I don't understand. I honestly didn't see a problem with that. I feel like there are bigger problems with the game, which brings to kind of the buggy part, because actually before entering Old Villador, the first section, it was actually incredibly buggy. Like the parkouring, like grabbing onto some things, it was just, sometimes you had to be like pinpoint perfect accuracy with where you were looking and what buttons you were pressing. Other times it would just lock onto something you weren't trying to grab onto, which was very frustrating at the start, especially when you're trying to learn the game. I mean, as I went on with the game, it stopped being a problem, became less and less of a problem as I got more used to it, and I was able to kind of finagle my way around it. It's a silly word to use. You know, but I made it work, and I guess that's all that matters. Old Villador, the first area of the city, reminded me a lot of Old Town. In Dying Light 1, it had a lot of the I wouldn't say same architecture, but very similar. I mean, it's based off of Europe, the architecture in the city. The factions were also kind of introduced, or were introduced, sorry, early in the game. There was the Survivors and what are they called? The Peacekeepers. Sorry, I'm not reading off a script or anything. This is just like coming straight from the head. So sorry if I'm taking like long breaks in between my sentences. Anyways, at first, when you enter Old Villador, the Survivors, they seem like a cult at first because they try to kill you for not having a biomarker, which is a thing that shows how fast your infection has progressed. Which I was kind of excited for because I think it'd be really cool to see like a religious cult kind of group, much like the one in The Following, the DLC for Dying Light 1. But then it turned out it wasn't, and they just all really don't trust people that don't have biomarkers or that are outsiders. Fair enough. Then you meet the Peacekeepers, which just serve as like a military base that protect people from the city in exchange for like resources, which just seems like Rise and his thugs from the first game, except better, like they're good, which didn't really make sense to me because in the trailers they made it seem like the Survivors were just people that were living in the city and the Peacekeepers were just like kind of there as like the military power of the Survivors, which I mean, understandable. Whatever, you know, factions are factions. That's all right, I guess. But yeah. there were the choices, right? The narrative choices that they announced, and honestly, when game developers announce like, oh, this game, it has a branching narrative, like oh wow, I should be impressed that your game has a branching narrative now. I've been told that lie several times at E3 and other conventions where the developers will just say that there's a branching narrative and your decisions matter, but really it's just the illusion of choice, and you will get very similar endings depending on what you choose. So when they said there were choices, I already did not have my hopes high, and I mean, I was right to not have my hopes high because the choices did not really matter that much in the end anyway. I can break it down a little bit. I would say there are a couple defining choices in the game, like one or two. Or I'd say two or three. Two or three is a better way to put it. And I think there's like 3 or 4 different endings, but they're all pretty similar. They all don't really matter in the end. I think it's just in the end it's just kind of like, oh, which faction do you think is cooler? You know, that's really all it kind of is. Which, you know, I guess is a little bit sad to see, because I kind of had high expectations for this game since it is a next gen game, and the first game was already really like revolutionary for its time, especially with the parkour and stuff like that. But you know, what are you gonna do about it, right? Not much. You can't really do anything about it. The quests are just, the side quests are just kind of shallow. A lot of them are fetch quests. They're kind of boring. I would say a lot of them are kind of similar to the first game's quests. They don't really make that much of a change. There are a couple that are interesting, like a couple sprinkled throughout, that have continuation quests as well. But really, they're all kind of bland. There's definitely a lot of performance issues too. I've noticed. At first, I thought the game was honestly like doing really great for its performance. Like it was running really, really well, like impressively well. But then it kind of the true colors started to show a little bit. You start to notice what is and isn't wrong with the game, with its performance. Like if you're in the Peacekeeper base, there's like a giant boat where the Peacekeepers rest in, then you know you're gonna get a lot of lag if you exit the game and come back. Like I just don't know why. You go there, it's fine. But if you not exit the game, if you travel somewhere else and then go back and then exit to the main menu and then go back in, it lags insanely. And you know, I have a pretty good PC. Yeah, I've got a 3070 Ti, an i7 10700K. Like I can handle this game. But for some reason, my PC just likes to shit itself when doing that. It also does the same thing if you travel around different areas in the game. So there are 2 different sections of the map: old Villador and kind of new Villador, which is like the city area with the skyscrapers and stuff like that. If you travel between those areas and like walk around a lot, your game will just over time just get like heavy performance issues. Like I'm talking holy moly pepperoni, like this is just crazy. It's jarring, honestly. I actually like, I'd have to like, after like 2.5 hours of playing, I'd have to just force close my game all the way to Steam and then restart it just because of the performance issues, because they'd just be incredibly annoying to deal with. The hang glider is a new tool that's kind of introduced as well. That thing is, I have a lot of mixed opinions. I'd say it's really fun to use. It's definitely overpowered, I would say. You can cheese a lot of the parkour challenges with it just by using it. You can get an insanely good time. Which, you know, isn't really... I'm going to kill myself here so I can get my health back. Okay, come on. Okay, this is not where I Thank you, Minecraft. I believe I went over here. Anyways, as we walk back to our house that I didn't know I did not save my spawn point for, it's overpowered, the hang glider. That's it. And the grappling hook makes a return. They nerfed it, so you're not pulling yourself towards it, which you can now, actually, but it's not as strong as the old game. If you middle click, and then like in the middle click again, you'll pull yourself towards it, but you won't directly go into it like the first game. So there's definitely that. That's a little bit interesting to see. It's just weird. They nerfed something that was kind of overpowered in the first game. I mean, honestly, I didn't mind it too much. I think you still used it, you know, in a normal sense. And then they just kind of, okay, this is definitely not the way to my house. They just kind of brought it back, nerfed it, and then added something that was even more powerful. And it's weird because the newer part of the city, New Villador, you know, the hang glider just kind of makes it so you don't have to parkour ever. I spent a substantial amount of time in New Villador just using the hang glider, like the city area, and all around. Honestly, I would barely parkour. Say like the grappling hook and the hang glider just go hand in hand. If you use those two, you literally never have to parkour in the entire game, which I found kind of silly. It was kind of crazy, to be honest. I didn't even like. You know what? I should probably like honestly find the coordinates to this place because I honestly don't want to lose it. But yeah, honestly, the game was a lot of fun at the start. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I know I've just been like kind of rambling this entire time. But it was really fun at the start, and I think the gameplay is fun. I think gliding around and parkouring is fun, but I think obviously the hang glider should be nerfed, and it doesn't really give a reason to parkour in the skyscraper area, like I said. But it's fun. It's enjoyable. Hitting zombies is satisfying, just like it always was. I just don't really know what to say other than it was kind of like a 5 out of 10. The story was really mediocre. It was cool at first. It dragged on. And here's a little weird note, okay? Lawan, one of the main characters in the game, she was white in the E3 trailers. And then they switched her in the final release, so she's black in the game. And I'm not saying I have anything against black characters in games or anything like that, but I just kind of want to know the thought, like what was going on behind that decision. I think what it might have been was the voice actor for Lawan. They wanted to accurately portray her in the game as herself instead of just someone else. Yeah, I don't really know if that's what it was, but it was definitely interesting. And I didn't even know this at the start. I just played the game, but someone brought it up on Reddit or something, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. And that kind of leads me to another thing. A lot of the people working on the game were like kind of fired while they were working on it. I think like the lead creative writer or something like that was fired. I think it was over sexual assault charges, something pretty bad, but he was fired. And although he was definitely fired for the right reasons, and what he did was absolutely disgusting, it kind of makes you think that maybe the game isn't that good because he wasn't there to kind of finish it. Not saying he should have been. I think he is. I'm glad that he was fired. It's just kind of like an awkward situation, you know. This like everything about this game is just awkward. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I say I don't know a lot, and I have these pauses because it's very hard to think about. You know, a lot of conflictions in my brain. You know, a lot of things that don't quite make sense. What is that down there? Holy moly. My chest plate fell all the way down here. Wow. Did it lose durability from fall damage? I didn't even know that could happen. Okay. All right, I need to get up there before mobs start spawning. I'm surprised I actually got back to my stuff in time. Okay, let's sleep. But yeah, the ending was very bad. The Renegades are just kind of a joke. The bad guy group, the antagonist was cool. And then okay, I can't really spoil the game, but it's kind of all a sham, and it was kind of a disappointment. Like, it's fun, but the story was honestly worse than Dying Light 1 on my honest opinion. There are performance issues, a lot of bugs, but the game is fun, right? I don't know what else to say other than, I mean, the weapon modification system was cool. I didn't really look into it that much. Same with the kind of upgrade system with your items, you know, your usable items, like throwing stars and medic bags. And I upgraded some stuff, but I didn't really find a use for them that much. Honestly, I kind of preferred the way Dying Light 1 did it with its weapon mods, because it was a lot easier, and it just felt more simple, intuitive, and this one just kind of, it seems a little more drawn out when it doesn't need to be. I don't know. I honestly just I'm feeling it a 5 out of 10. It's just not that good. And to kind of bring back the art style thing that I mentioned at the start that I never kind of elaborated on, it just looks weird at a distance. Like, when you're looking at the out of bounds sections, even on max graphics with the art style, it really just looks out of place. Not to mention that you're in a zombie apocalypse and everything looks like Wonderland, like poppy and vibrant. Like, it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't look nice, and you know, that's just like the best way I can explain it. And you know, take it from me, you know, everyone has their own opinion, and you know, if you don't like the game, or if you do like the game, that's fine. You know, everyone has their own tastes. But honestly, I would only recommend getting it on sale. You know, it's like a 5 out of 10. You know, I played the game. You know, it had me interested, but you know, I don't think you should get it at full price. I should really emphasize, though, the bugs are pretty bad. They are pretty bad. There's a lot of quest-breaking bugs and a lot of other bugs that just make the game a real pain in the ass to play, especially if you're completionist like me and trying to get achievements. It's a real pain in the ass. Anyways, I'm sorry for everything just being split, not really talking from a script, and just talking to the microphone. I apologize. But thank you guys for staying tuned, I guess. Or if anyone is watching, thank you. Thank you to my future self for watching it back. Well, catch you guys in like 3 months.